So if the zombies from those George Romero movies like Dawn of the Dead, if they formed a band, it would sound like this. I'm talking about Autopsy. The new album is Morbidity Triumphant. They're from the U.S. They're from Oakland, California. It's an old school death metal band. They're one of the originators. They formed back in 1987. And this is a band that originated from the original band Death. Drummer Chris Reifert, he left after Scream Bloody Gore, and he formed this band with Eric Cutler. And they're one of the like old school, the originators of the death metal genre. This is just classic death metal. They talk about death and horror stuff and zombies and all types of like gory stuff. They're on Peaceville Records, and this is a band that is one of the originators of like the death doom genre because it's a band that is not afraid to go fast and then not afraid to get slow. So I'm going to be talking about that a little later. So basically this band was together between 87 and 95, and they released like 4 albums in that period. Actually, their last album from that period is called Shitfun, and take a look at that album cover. It's pretty sick and disgusting. But they reunited back in around 2011, and they released a couple more albums, you know, Macabre Eternal, The Headless Ritual, Tourniquets, Hacksaws, and Graves. So that was their last album in 2014. So now it's been pretty much a long, I guess it's like 8 years since their last album. And now the new one, Morbidity Triumphant. So this is a good album. It's classic death metal. What I like about it is that there are lots of guitar solos. So you got Eric Cutler and Danny Corrales. They're two guitarists. Eric Cutler does vocals, but they like to trade off a guitar solo. So they sprinkle in these like little short solos, you know, in and out of the song. So that's something that's really cool. So if you're a guitar guy and you like death metal, that's something that you would like about this. Basically, the lyrics are just very like gory horror movie stuff. For example, "Stab the Brain." That's about like describing abortion. Then you got things like "The Voracious One," about some type of prehistoric creature coming back to life. You got a Nice Life Axe Chop about like this like psychopath with this very like gory film footage on like VHS tapes. There's actually a music video for that one, and Skin by Skin, another one about a serial killer. They did a video for that one as well. So this is basically, like I'm saying, old school death metal. The most important part about this album is that they change tempos a lot, and that's really important in the listening of this album because you don't get bored and you know when the songs stop and you know when they start, because they're either like they start very fast and then they get slow, or they start slow and they get fast, and that kind of helps you distinguish, you know, one song from the next, because these vocals are very harsh. Now this is a band that you can't really like distinguish the vocals. Even if you try to read along the vocals while you're listening to the songs, it's kind of very difficult to determine like what they're saying or like kind of like follow along. But the vocals are more used as like an instrument or creating the whole feeling of that whole like death. I mean, it literally sounds like one of those like George Romero zombies getting up to the microphone and doing the vocals. That's what it sounds like. Let me talk about some of the standout songs. Opening track, that was just old school death metal. I think that's like one of the songs where they go from like mid-pace to fast. So that's one of the songs where they don't really implement like the doom metal into it. So that one's really good. Just really brutal. Born in Blood, that's another one. It's very like dark. It's like a baby born, but like the mother dies and like the baby's born in like this bloodbath or something like that. This is one where they start really slow, but then they get fast. So that one's really good. The thing that stood out in this song was those like deep string bends. I really like that. So that's something really cool. Flesh Strewn Temple, it's another one I liked. Talk about sacrifice and rituals, that describing this like house of horror with all these catacombs and like these skulls on the walls. And you know, these lyrics paint the picture. You kind of got to read along like while you listen to it. But I like this one because it's a little more atmospheric with the guitar riffs, and there are like hints of black metal in it. So that one's really good. This is another one that's where the tempo goes from like slow to fast. That one's really good. Tapestry of Scars. This is just very brutal, kind kind of like a Cannibal Corpse type of song. These lyrics are just very like about like self mutilation, very slow to fast lyrics, and this is one of the songs where it has those like blazing solos where the two guitarists they kind of like alternate and they like throw in these like quick and fast solos. So that one's really good. Then the singles I really love, Knife Slice Axe Chop. That one's really good because this one's good. It starts with like a guitar solo, like the solo is like right in the beginning, and it almost has like a hint of that like blues rock, like an AC/DC, Angus Young kind of thing, but it's still death metal. So that's what I picked out about this. And this is another one of those songs that has those like slow, thick, heavy, and grimy like bass riffs. And they're kind of like these like isolated bass riffs. So they do that a lot. And then the following song, Skin by Skin, they still do those like isolated, like thick bass riffs. And this one is good. This one's like a little slower at first, but then, like most songs, it gets faster later on. Now there's another song where it's kind of more on like the doom metal side, where it's called Slaughter of Souls, and this is just a very dark and evil song. And this is one of those songs where they get really slow and then they kind of get like fast again, but this is more of that like old kind of funeral doom type of thing. So like I'm saying, this is a band that they're not afraid to get very fast and get very brutal, and they're not afraid to slow it down. So if you like those two genres, this is a good album because they do blend it. So I definitely like this album. It's very consistent. I don't think anything is like skippable. It's an album that you're going to listen to front to back. It doesn't feel long at all. It's 40 minutes, but it just feels like it goes by quickly. It's an album, if you like that old school sound, if you like, that original Death album, Scream, Bloody Gore, you'll definitely like this type of music. So it's a solid album. My score is an 8 out of 10. And definitely check it out because this is like one of those like underrated bands, I guess. They're one of the original death metal bands, but I feel that they don't really get like as much attention as like Cannibal Corpse or Obituary or Death. But that is all. Let me know in the comments what you thought.